Clemson quarterback Trevor Lawrence is among those posting on social media that they want to play this season. Lawrence's take on Twitter: people are at just as much, if not more, risk if we don't play. Players will all be sent home to their own communities where social distancing is highly unlikely, and medical care and expenses will be placed on the families if they were to contract COVID-19. Not to mention the players coming from situations that are not good for them, their future, and having to go back to that. Football is a safe haven for so many people. We are more likely to get the virus in everyday life than playing football. Kirk Herbstreit joining us now for more on this. Herbie, strong words from Lawrence there. He had a busy day on social media, those tweets and the "We Want to Play" movement that's gone viral in the last 12 hours or so. Both Lawrence and Ohio State QB Justin Fields tweeting out that statement shortly after midnight Eastern. What's your reaction to that message?
I think it's just great over the last week or so to see the players in college football having an opportunity to have their voices be heard, whether it's been social media or being unified. Originally out of the Pac-12, the Big Ten got together, and now it sounds like, as you said, Jay, late last night they all came together, and I think there are different issues there that they all want to address. The main thing, making sure that their safety is primary focus, which I think from everybody I've talked to, I think they're moving in a better direction than maybe where they were. I do feel that sometimes the administrators are put into a bad light where, I think they're trying to figure this thing out. One thing I've clearly seen is it's easy to say there's a lack of leadership. The reality is in college football, maybe not the other sports, college football, without a commissioner and without the NCAA being able to kind of govern the rules or whatever the decisions might be made, you basically have five leaders in college football, the Power Five conference commissioners, and they're all concerned about their constituents, their presidents, their fans. So it's hard to really get everybody on the same page because they're all dealing with their own agenda and their own set of issues and problems. And maybe what the Pac-12 is facing is different from what the Big Ten is facing, and maybe the SEC and the Pac-12. So it makes it so it's easy to sit on the outside and say, why aren't these people making good decisions? It's because they're not worried about the collective body. They're worried about just their conference.
You mentioned those commissioners. Heather Dinich just told us earlier that the Power Five commissioners held that emergency meeting yesterday. They're going to try and determine whether or not to have a season. What do you believe should be the primary factor going into that decision?
Well, there's just so many. I don't know if you can just pick one, right? The health of the players is the obvious. Testing, and can we get better testing and more testing? How about trying to figure out where contact tracing? How do you draw the line with that when these players start to go to class and a player becomes positive? How do you decide who's been within 6 feet of that player who's now positive for more than 15 minutes? Can you imagine policing that at Alabama versus Ohio State versus Texas A&M versus Florida State? Is everybody going to go by the same rules? So I think the idea that to say that people don't want college football is insane. Everybody wants college football, but how do you get there with the data that's coming in, and then logistically, how do you try to pull it off where people are going to test positive? It's just going to happen. And what do you do, and how do you control that when they do test positive? I think that's the big hang up here, and the liability that I think is hanging over the head of all these decision makers.
From the folks you've talked to in and around the sport to your gut, how much optimism do you have that we will have a college football season in 2020?
It's like a roller coaster. A few months ago, you felt pretty good. And then mid-June, you got scared again. And then a few weeks ago, hey, it looks like the schedules are out and they're going to play 10 conference games. And it looks like maybe they're heading in a good direction again. And then the MAC steps out, they bow down over on Saturday. And then there's word that Kevin Warren and the Big Ten they're meeting with their presidents, and the presidents have made it very clear that they don't want to play. 12 versus 14 voted that they did not want to play. And then I think Saturday afternoon is when I think everybody else started to realize this thing's not going to happen, as far as the Big Ten is concerned. But then you have the player movement. we want to play, the hashtag, we want to play. And you have coaches involved in that. I think even the Wake Forest president's involved in that. So I don't know if it's going to make much of a difference. It seems that the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, if dominoes are going to start to fall with the Power Five, from everything I've heard, it seems it will start in the next 24 hours to 48 hours with the Big Ten and the Pac-12, and then you'll see what happens with the Big 12 and the ACC. One thing we know, the SEC will be the last one standing, and they'll do everything that they can, and obviously in order to try to play. And it's going to be crazy. This week will be crazy week for college football.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.